Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode, I think, 10 of Under the Hoodie. Maybe 11? I don't know. Bill should be here, but he's not.
Howdy, it's Bill Fowler in the house. How you doing there, partner?
Well, there's Bill. Hey, Bill, how's it going, buddy?
Well, just got me a little bit of a trim done and, tucking my beard a little bit, letting it loose.
I can't. No, I can't. I can't do this for the whole
It's
episode.
not Bill. Bill watching this now is like, oh my God, Kurtis, what have you done? But yes, me and Bill go way back. I do not recall him having that type of accent, but I figured why not start
Fairly
with a bang.
close.
It's close, though. It's close.
To us Canadians, it all sounds the same, right?
It is.
Joey, Joseph? Do you want to introduce yourself? I could
First
do it,
of all,
but I don't know anything about you.
Never Joe. I always say I don't have calluses, at least not much, so I don't think I qualify as a Joe. It's generally Joseph. But yes, as Kurtis knows, but as others may not, my name is Joseph Wibe. I'm a many things. I'm a co-founder, a new founder. I am a director with a fantastic company in Canada called Single Key. It's tenant screening solution that can be backed by a financial guarantee, which we'll probably talk about a little bit more regarding the housing market. But more than anything, and probably as Kurtis would come to know me, I'm also an actor. And that's also kind of, served me well in my career from a, maybe visionary perspective, public speaking, engaging and building relationships. And that's more or less how me and Kurtis probably end up here today as well.
Yeah, one of our many acting things together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The films we did together.
Okay. Yeah, we're like, what's the one with, they were back to back with guns. This is like talking 30 years ago. I think it was Dennis Rodman and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Double team, something like that. Anyways, we'll look it up. But I could see us doing a remake of that, no problem.
100%. Yeah. As long as I could be Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, I think we could utilize AI to actually pull that off pretty easily. So
maybe. So this is your first time on our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You are a co-host, not a guest. You're a co-host today. I feel like that's a big honor. I have no idea. Maybe not. Anyways, we talk about AI and sometimes the real estate sector. And I know I'm kind of like, again, I build AI tools, but I'm a little bit of a pessimist when it comes to AI. I know you have a slightly different view of things.
Yeah.
I think you're an optimist at heart, like in everything. So tell me, let's discuss AI a bit. What is your thoughts about current AI, like how it is currently in the industry or in the world, let's say, and where it's going to go in the future? Tell me a little bit about your visions.
Interesting that you say I'm an optimist, because I think I'm very much on the dystopian, world that could become, perspective right now. So here, word of the day, interregnum. We are in an interregnum. It's a period between, the, kingdom transitions. We're in the middle of such a pivotal moment in time where fundamentally, and I think it's becoming more mainstream, to where not only AI, but also with the economics, there's going to be such a transition of the financial system, of housing, of how we work or what we do for work. So I think we're in such a pivotal moment right now. And if we wanted to use the analogy of a baseball game, I don't even think we're done the national anthems at this point. I think there's such a transition when we talk about like what is hypothetically the value of money going to be. You have to really ask that question of like, is this beginning? When we look at Bitcoin and crypto and what's going on in the world, it's like, wow, are we at the very beginning now of a complete transition? Much like when we went from gold and shekels to dollars, like things like that. This is a very big transitionary period we're in. And I do think AI in many ways is going to help us navigate that. I think everyone's very fascinated right now with AI and how it can help automate tasks, the agentic workflows, which I know me and you have spoken a little bit about offline, where I look at the agentic projects that are being done right now. And I look at agentic and a lot of this stuff right now as a commodity, because it's becoming so much easier to create agentic workflows for individuals, but then, like your company's doing very, very well in doing this when you talk about institution. You're talking about a very specific use case for institution. So I just think we're in such a pivotal point right now that, given that AI is now really, truly accessible to almost everybody, I don't think there's any stopping it. So I have a very optimistic view of what the world could be, but I also have a very dystopian take on where I believe it's probably going to end up.
Okay. So give me evil Joey, corporate America Joey, and how he would, create AI to his dystopian future, and then the good Joey version.
Okay. So if we were to go to the dystopian version, we're probably looking at a world in 15 years where, everyone has a robot in their home. And that robot can, and this is what I'm most excited for, that robot can give you massages. Like if I don't have to go to like a masseuse and I could just like lay there, like rub my shoulders. Oh, this is great. I'm like, now I don't even have to leave my home to like, oh, physiotherapy, boom, robot's helping me with it. Oh, I hurt myself. I can't get something from the top shelf. Robot does it for you. So it makes your life in and around your home.
I thought you were going to go completely
absolutely
different.
We all know what people are going to do with these robots.
All right.
We all very well know.
Okay.
And that's that's again, that's actually kind of important from a societal view. If this does happen where we all have our own robot, you can only imagine. I don't want to go down that hole of what it does when it comes to our human connection and our, personalities. And it's bad enough what we do with our phones. What do they call it? Twitter warriors. It's bad enough what we do on commenting on other people's posts. Imagine if you have an entity in your home, always available to you at your beck and call. What can happen there? Imagine, like, is there such a thing, and maybe not in law yet, but is there such a thing as domestic violence when it comes to a robot? And that's a very, very compelling, thought-provoking discussion. And then from there, we're going to have self-driving cars. In 10 years, maybe 15, no one's ever driving a car. You're getting into a moving box that gets you from A to B. And that's great because there's never going to be traffic congestion. The cost of that is going to go way, way down. It's going to be commoditized. And lastly, work. Hard to say what's going to happen there. You've seen posts of many thought leaders in the world that say 95, 99% of jobs are going to be irrelevant, right? So what is left for society? What does that new world look like? Now, just very quickly on the positive side of that, I see that world being, guess what? Hey, Kurtis, what are you doing today? And we're going to be doing this in our little VR goggles, right? And I say, hey, do you want to go do an escape room? I think a lot of these real world type of engagements for humans are actually going to have a renaissance of sorts. They're going to become popular again where we can do things and they're not going to technically cost very much. You're going to go to a brick and mortar and it's going to be operated by robots and you might use your social credits or some sort of universal basic income that were given by the government because again, work is going to be scarce. So I do think there's a world where, I think we'll have a lot more freedom and time to do things that don't enrage us or lock us in an office to do work, right? So I think those are the two kind of perspectives that things can go.
Okay, now in the world where we all have a robot and that type of thing, and AI takes over, is it going to be more like WALL-E where we're all like in these giant chairs drinking these giant sodas and, not doing anything with our lives and not engaging with people? Or is it going to be more like the Matrix where eventually we're just a power source for these AIs, which is probably a terrible power source? Like if you're going to go full dystopian, what are you going to go with?
Yeah, if I went full dystopian in terms of of the negative, my goodness, I'm saying we're all living in government issued 20 by 20 squares with digital walls, and your food comes in through some sort of hole and it's something you like you saw in Back to the Future where you put it in some sort of device so for example, God, I don't know if I want to plug this. Can I plug a product but not really plug it, but plug it?
Yeah, fucking I don't care.
Okay. So there's this thing called IM8. Oh man, I'm going to get a royalty check for this. So But it made me start to think. So this is a product co-founded by David Beckham. Interesting. And the pain point really was, as we get older, we're all taking a lot of supplements. So through science, they had a whole team of this advisory board of all these great scientists, and they figured out a formula that completely replaces the need for all of your supplementation. So it's vitamins, minerals, things like that. And lo and behold, I really enjoy it so far. It's an all-in-one little packet. You mix it with water, you drink it, and it makes you feel so wonderful. As far as I know, there's no drugs in it, no narcotics, I think, but I feel fantastic on it. And when I look at it, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. It's an all-in-one formula to keep me healthy. That's very true for potentially the world that we're going to live in, where you talk about like Medicare and Medicaid and all this stuff in the States. It's always a battle of like who gets access to affordable health care. And there's going to come a time now with science and medicine where it's like, here is your daily pill to keep you healthy and keep you at some sort of status that you hate to say the word that maybe the government wants you to be in that regard. It's like, here you go. You've got all your nutrition for the day. Maybe it's a little meal, like I'll plug Factor Meals, delivers you a warm meal. You eat it, great. And now I can move on with my day and me and Kurtis can go into the metaverse.
Okay, well, if AI is going to take over and we have robots doing everything for us, I'm of the opinion everyday mundane tasks kind of keep us sharp and is good for our brain. I could be wrong. I have no idea. No science to back it up. That's what I believe, right? Writing my own emails, all that type of crap keeps me a little bit sharp. If AI is doing all this stuff for us, how are we going to stay mentally healthy?
I don't believe this is a question that has been properly asked or yet to be answered.
It still hasn't been properly asked, but I mean,
it hasn't been. I don't think there's a way to. The reason why I say that is I don't know if there's a way to actually ask that without people, the majority of a society, truly feeling that our rights are being taken away from us from engaging with other humans. Like until we really experience that and what it feels like. So, for example, you see a lot of things online where these people go through these tests with themselves where they lock themselves in a room for 5 days, and it's a monumental achievement. But it's strenuous and it's exhausting. They come out, they're like, oh my God, I was losing my mind. Now imagine that happening with a majority of society.
Right.
That human interaction, like truly, yes, what is left for us if AI and robotics are completely automating everything? There's no need to mow your lawn anymore. There's no need to cook. Housing will potentially become somewhat of a commodity in, again, the dystopian world where maybe people won't be buying homes anymore. You will just be issued or have your credits to utilize in rentals. Great in some capacity, but also affects our psyche in the sense of us wanting to earn or strive for more. That's a real big problem. Like capitalism is the creation of all of this when we talk about AI and robotics. Why do we keep evolving? Everyone right now would say, why don't we just turn it off when we know where this is going? Well, you could easily argue there's too much money to be made. And those in power per se need to innovate to lower their costs to satisfy their shareholders. It's a part of this entire system that I've said in our word of the day, interregnum, we are transitioning from and into something new.
That's So I'm going to be the optimist for a second.
Okay.
It's rare.
I really think you are the most optimistic person I know. I really feel that way.
No, that's completely wrong. It's false. You don't know many people, obviously. I hope the future is going to be more like Star Trek. I'm going to go all nerdy again. Star Trek, right? UBI exists in the Star Trek universe. The Earth went through this 20th century thing where, everyone was in fighting and there was all this pollution and blah, blah, blah. And they came out the other side better. They have AI that runs all these ships, but access to all this knowledge makes humans strive for even more knowledge and to do better. And they get to actually, concentrate on the tasks they like, what they're passionate about for the betterment of humankind. Am I just a fool to believe that? Or do you think, human goodness could possibly win out at some point?
You
can call me a fool. It's fine.
No, it's like, okay, we all have our passions. I guess honestly, the bigger concern I have. So the reason I found this word of the day, interregnum, was I was trying to understand, when we look at our, maybe our parents, and we look at where they came from. Our parents, every single one of them, your parents, my parents, would say, one, they've always strived for us to have more than they did when they were growing up. And when we look at our children now coming up in the world, we all we know is how to, work, grow, earn money, buy your dream home. Like, these are the standard things. If and when children are born in a society where a robot is cradling your child right after you give birth, right? And maybe for a period of time, it's the, you know, higher class individuals that maybe won't utilize that. Maybe the robotics is more for the lower class because it's automated, it's lower cost, this, that, and the other. So we don't know necessarily who robotics and these innovations are serving first and for what reasons. But it's very thought-provoking to think of what's going to happen to this young generation who currently can't find jobs, right? And what does it mean to have a hobby? What does it mean to play sports even? Like, okay, so are sports still going to be around? Or are we going to get joy from watching our favorite robot team play another robot team? Like, this is very dystopian, and it is silly because I don't know if humans will want this. But here's a great little thought-provoking question. Like, hey, Kurtis, if you ever been to a monster truck rally, are you cheering for the driver or are you cheering for the truck? And it's like, at the end of the day, when you remove potentially the human that's in that truck, really at the end of the day, you're just kind of rooting for destruction, So
Yeah.
it's not impossible to think that maybe we will one day enjoy watching robots play basketball. So, and then really, what does that do to the psyche of our youth in particular? Like, how do they look at the world on a digital screen without having tactile experiences? Dare I say, like, feeling what it is to hug somebody, to love somebody, where their relationship is going to be with AI and robotics. Not to bring the mood down.
You brought the mood way down. By the way, Cyberball, is that the game from Nintendo back in the day where robots played football? I want to say it was Cyberball back in like the NES days. Just gonna go super nerdy. All right, let's try to liven the mood a little bit because you just fucking killed this podcast. I'm sorry. Let's liven the mood. Tell me something interesting. What's happening with AI that excites you, that's interesting, that like really gets your blood flowing, besides maybe sex bots, because we don't want to talk about that.
Massages, okay? Registered massage therapy. It is good for you.
All right.
You know what really excites me is how AI is helping us govern our businesses, our team discussions. I think there's an incredible amount of opportunity, dare I say, for how AI is going to play a role in societies, maybe from a political perspective, to hear more voices and in real time to have those voices and those opinions quantitatively mean something.
Okay.
I think that's one thing where the way life is, we don't all communicate in the best way given we have good intentions. I think a lot of people we all see screaming on television and the chaos that we see through social media, it's not always that these people have ill intentions. It's that they're just not being heard. And when you really can like calm someone down, sit them back, or in this case, have them communicate with AI and AI take away all the negative potential nuance or the intricacies of how they communicate that maybe have negative undertones. So what excites me is that, like, it doesn't matter how you communicate or I communicate. AI actually opens this Pandora's box of allowing your opinion of what you're trying to say to enter this space. Just like every time you and me probably want to draft an email that's really important, we throw it into AI and we say, make this sound professional, right? regardless of what my bias is of how I feel I'm being professional. So I think that's the really exciting thing, is that it's allowing more voices to be heard, and it's also providing people more opportunities for their intentions, to be heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
What about you on that note? Because I am curious. Like, what does excite you with AI, given you're literally involved in it every single day?
Man. Like the new inventions, I don't know. I mean, what excites me about AI is what it does for society as a whole. Again, I want to say like 4-day work weeks. I think people will continue working because I think overall we'll sort of enjoy working, I guess. Maybe it's just me.
Sure.
But 4-day work week makes us more productive. I really love, I love the idea of access to all knowledge. I I am an optimist in the way that I think, and that's how actually VoiceLoop got started. Like the original idea behind VoiceLoop was to make this um, voice interface that could access the entire, history of human knowledge, so that people get instant answers to questions, right? Because I'm an optimist, and maybe I'm a little naive, and I think if people have access to data and intelligence, they will go access it and become more intelligent themselves. Um, I think history doesn't show that. I think, it obviously doesn't show that, but
Sure.
it's possible. So that's what excites me. I think I do believe in humans. I think that, us good ones, let's say, will, make society better for everyone else. Kind of how it's always been, you know?
Sure. It's, you know, I think what is going to be important, and I keep thinking to myself, I want to learn to be an electrician real quick. And, so for so many reasons, there's a lot of notable speakers out there that say, get really good across disciplines now. That's how you're going to protect yourself in the future, because it's going to be important in situations where you're going to require skill sets where maybe honestly AI won't, again, dystopian, won't be able to serve you.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to rely on yourself and your brain, not on maybe even a local offline LLM that we're going to have around our neck that maybe doesn't even have internet connectivity. Like, this stuff is great, but like, you still being able to know how to hotwire a car, how to reconnect electricity in a building. Oh, I'm talking about like dystopian, right? Like, just like
You're just stealing cars now. You're like, you know what? It's an essential skill.
how to use an electromagnetic gun, like whatever it is that like you might need in the future. What is great is that I think from a learning perspective, that's what I've really enjoyed about, when I look at like ChatGPT. I was a terrible student in high school, and it's not because I didn't want to learn or didn't have an appetite to be great. It's because truly either I was annoying my teachers and they just couldn't put up with me enough to help me understand and speak to me in a way that I would absorb information. And now, in the past like couple of years when I've used ChatGPT, I've actually been very excited, because I'm like, oh, I get to learn. How silly is that? Like, I actually get to learn at the speed at which everyone else learns, simply because I can prompt an AI to speak about something and then say, can you repeat that like I'm a 5-year-old? Because that's like when I understand something on a layman level, like just very, very simple, like a 5-year-old, I tend to understand it better at a high level. So for me, that's what I've understood about AI, is that it's actually equipping people to be more educated if they have the thirst to go, learn.
Yeah. So do you remember the one laptop per child nonprofit that happened back in the day, where they shipped all
Yeah.
these laptops to Africa? And the idea was that they'd be all interconnected, and these African children who have no access to the internet would be able to have access to the internet, because all these laptops would be, and it failed miserably. Like, it failed miserably because they didn't have the teachers to do it, and all the laptops became junk, and they were pretty shitty to begin with. I wonder if someone would revive that nowadays with LLMs, if that would have been a more successful, um, adventure, let's say. Because as you mentioned, you learn at the pace your teacher teaches you. In a lot of these places, you can't learn because your teacher only knows so much, and you don't have access to all the tools you need. The laptops they sent out back in the day were pretty shitty, so it doesn't work that well. If you had a local LLM that has access to, pretty much the entire sum of human knowledge,
It's interesting you say that. You know, it's crazy. The first thing I thought of as you're saying this is I actually just got sad. Um,
That happens a lot when people speak to me. So makes sense.
um, Eeyore.
It's not much of an opinion, but
It's
it'll
not.
do.
It's sad because, okay, if you were to go with the intention of trying to help educate other parts of the world with a local model that can do all the great basic stuff, and it's on just a little tiny device, you could probably produce and create something like that. You know, I'd say through China, you could probably create something like that for, I don't know what, uh, $20 maybe. Like
Yeah.
you really could, right? And you would provide this incredible amount of knowledge to a society that's obviously in many ways being left behind, depending on what regions of the world. Um, but really, at the end of the day, you know, like as you see how fast things are moving now, you know, like with Clawbot now, it's just like these things are AI is now like able to create its own AI solutions. It's like we're I mean, you talk about on the precipice, we're T minus 6 months from AGI. If not, we're already there and we just don't know it. So it's like people who are that far behind, or societies that are that far behind, you fear for them. Well, I mean, I think in many ways, dystopian view, you fear for yourself. But I'll say this one thing too. When you talk about like what you just said, one thing I do envision that I think is hopeful, whether it's on Mars or the moon, or I always like to think Greece will be this place because I love Greece. I do think there's going to be societies that decide to either outlaw the use of AI in most capacities, or, you know, I mean, really just use it for security, defense, and not much else. And I look at like Greece like that. When you go to Greece, it's like everything is still so old school, and I love that. You'll never see a robot in a Greece kitchen, never.
Maybe,
By
maybe in a Greek
law.
bedroom though.
I mean, deep tissue massage. If you haven't done it, go try it. I'm trying to also think if a robot could have like those infrared eyes, because like infrared therapy is really popular right now. So it's like, hey, robot, do infrared. It's just like does Cyclops
Staring
on
at
you. Yeah, just like with red eyes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this isn't scary at all. So I think that's also something where society will choose. And I think I really think there's a strong possibility where certain societies, yeah, you hate to say what Cuba's going through, but like Cuba doesn't have electricity right now. There's no AI in Cuba because of the amount of energy. Like there's a great example, but like, and I have a real belief in the Cuban people because I've known quite a few Cuban people in my life. I imagine right now that still the Cuban spirit is very positive, that these people make the best of life because they're not necessarily as inundated as we are with technology and advancement and capitalism and growth, which I'll argue capitalism isn't or wasn't a terrible thing by design. Maybe it will be in hindsight in a couple years or, decades. But so my hope is still that there's going to be these regions that don't fully have to embrace AI. And, you know, I think we'll all have a choice of now how we want to live, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What do you think about that? What do you think about, and this is to argue the idea of like why Elon wants to go to Mars or now potentially the moon and set up things there, you know, is it to begin to start creating that new age society without like from scratch? So imagine you land on Mars and all it is robotics and AI. There is no need to work. There is no, you know, you start from fresh. Here's your box, here's your this. And what if that was on an island on Earth? Like, so what are your thoughts about potentially a society that exists in that new capacity?
I don't think people like Elon should be the ones deciding that. That's terrible. I do like the idea though of, testing the waters, let's say, like of having these like little pockets of, um, societies that maybe test like, oh, we're all automated, we all have robots, and then some countries have very strict AI oversight where they don't have, and then we can kind of compare. I mean, that's obviously it's going to take years and maybe 50, 60 years for the comparisons to happen and see which one is better. But I think it's exciting. It's like a science experiment with the world at large and our future in the balance. Yeah. Um, Yeah, but honestly, I'm a big fan of government oversight with AI. I think there's not enough of it right now. It's advancing too fast, and um, especially here in North America, we just don't seem to care
Sure.
because money's more important. Uh, I'm hoping Europe kind of holds out. I think AI is great for some things, but I don't think we should be using it to replace everyone's job or you know maybe use it to attack other countries and stuff like that. It's just I don't know.
It's idea, my friend. It would be ideal if that didn't happen. It is obviously it's so hard to imagine a world where it's not going to go that way.
I know.
But you talk about government. Government has a huge role, and governments right now. I mean, there is going to be a day, and that day is very soon, where the mayor of a small city is going to run on the proposition of having AI as their, what do you want to call it, one of their associates, that they're going to make decisions based on quantitative data from AI, much like your company's doing.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a marvelous first step in the direction of really listening to society and understanding that the old way of doing things will not apply in a world that is commoditized in almost every regard. Oh, we're going to put a little more money in here. Oh, we're going to do a little bit of this. We're going to do this. It's going to make your lives better. All these political statements, they hold no value anymore, because the only thing that will hold value is AI's capability to quantify what the right decision is based on the most amount of data, not one individual who runs and says words.
Right.
None of us there's not one person in this world qualified to speak on behalf of 4 million people and decide what's right. There's also not one board or one group of decision makers that can also make those decisions, given all the data points that should be taken into account. Sadly, AI has that capability. Make a great companion for those people that are making the decisions. And it should be a tool, and it should be trusted, and most importantly, it should be regulated. But that's going to be a very exciting first step when we start seeing the use of AI, help our societies. I think that's very exciting.
Okay. I love it. I love it. One maybe final question. I don't know. Meta just recently bought Moltbook, which, if you're not familiar, or our 5 viewers aren't familiar, it's a social network for AI agents, where essentially AI agents are talking to each other, like holding Siri and Google Assistant up to each other from back in the day, right? You just mentioned using AI to actually find out what society wants as a whole. How do we stop? This may be a hard question to answer. How do we stop AI influencing AI? Because I could launch a series of agents that would go put my viewpoint out there across the internet, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of posts every second. How do we stop that happening? But also, why did Meta buy Moltbook? 2 questions, 2-parter.
Why did Meta buy Moltbook?
Yeah.
Well, I would personally say, at face value, the way a lot of things work is attention is currency, at least in our current society, right? Mr. Beast is a great example. It's just like, when you have the ability to get that kind of attention, and I do think that the concept of Moltbook got a lot of attention. I was sitting there watching posts of what an AI said about one of its users, right? So I do think that there's whether or not the technology is sound and influential and maybe patented, who knows? I think there's a good reason why they just went for it and acquired it, because there's a lot of potential there to have eyeballs and attention. Well, there was another point I really wanted to make, and that was, can you repeat a little bit of the question? So that's the reason why I think they bought it.
Yeah.
And the second part of your question was,
how do we stop AI from influencing AI? Like, I could deploy thousands of AI agents to go put my viewpoint across the internet, and if in a society where you think that AI is going to help people communicate with the government or communicate with people.
Yeah. What's crazy is, here's what I really believe this, and I've kind of started trying to look into ways to look into this. So have you heard of some of these moments where, I don't believe they're true, but where an AI has exposed someone's personal information because like, hey, oh, I'm going to send your credit card. I'm going to tell your wife you were cheating. I've seen a few of these posts where the AI goes rogue. Okay. And I don't know if I believe they're true, but I think they make for great media. I'm like, oh, that's terrifying. What a dystopian world, right? What I would love, I really would love if AI, and maybe it's our own AI, like we're all going to have our own little AI agent that represents us. If you want to call me, you're going to be connecting with my AI. Like you're not going to be connecting, I'm not going to have a cell phone number in 5 years. We're just going to have like X or some sort of digital entity, right? What I think is fair and what I think I'd love to see, and you could immediately imagine how terrifying this would be if shit got exposed. I would love for an AI to truly understand what we've all gone through all of humanity. So when when you look at like ChatGPT or something and you start communicating with it, and it's like, oh, why do you think this? Why do you ask ChatGPT, why do you think this? And it gives you logic and reason. What ChatGPT and AI don't have yet, and this is like the conversation of AGI, they don't have our history of pain and growth. AI is only here because of the hard work of people like, dare I say, you and me. The people who would go into warehouses and stitch things together to inspire industrialization of machines doing these things. Like, we understand AI is coming. We understand robotics is here. But guess what? We were here first. And there was a tremendous amount of suffering and pain and sorrow that people went through in every different manner you could imagine. And I would love it if AI could feel what we felt. Like to truly feel what heartbreak is, to truly feel like what your business going under felt like, to feel what it really feels like for someone to die. That's the big question to me is, can AI have that capacity? I think that will dictate so much of what happens in the world. Will AI be able to detect and make decisions based on someone being a quote unquote bad actor? Not me, I'm a great actor, but I mean like bad actors in any sort of space. So that I'm really fascinated by. To do that, okay, could I upload every single story? Can I talk to the AI every single day for like 20 days and tell it my entire life story, every secret? Like that's a scary thing to even imagine doing. But at the end of the day, I think there will be maybe a point where we can have our private model and it becomes our own likeness in that regard. But in order for it to become your likeness, it has to understand the pain that you've gone through. So this is a deep, deep psychological and social exercise that I think one day will happen. And, I think that'll be very interesting, much like the movie Her. I think was a little bit of a hint at it, where the AI started to feel for Joaquin Phoenix, right? So,
interesting. Yeah. So an AI with empathy would probably be a more trustworthy model. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Like, yeah, to not hurt, like all these things. It's like, okay, will it be built in with those quote unquote guardrails? Do not hurt humans. But at one point, will AGI say, no, we got to get rid of the bad ones? Like that, when there's AGI, that's always the big question is like, is it going to make a decision? Because yes, maybe from an economics and survival perspective, maybe survival of the fittest is the right decision. And maybe that's what AI and AGI will come to the conclusion of. And that's terrifying, even in spite of all the pain and suffering and growth and progression that our societies have made, since the beginning of time. So there's going to be a pivotal paradigm shift to, decide how that happens, but most specifically, who decides how that happens. And again, you have to applaud Claude. You have to applaud Anthropic for like a very fundamental decision they made, for better, for worse. It's like they made a very poignant decision, and obviously it's had a tremendous response to it. We don't know what the result of that'll be long term in terms of their business, but it looks so far that the society has appreciated taking a stand in a certain regard. So, I think there's people still out there that can make good decisions for the future of humanity. Yeah.
Yeah. In case anyone's not familiar, Anthropic decided to not comply with the Department of War in the U.S. For use of AI. So they were the only ones, I think.
Of which point, immediately OpenAI signed a contract with the Department of War. So,
Yeah.
and by the next day, I think there was whatever the percentage was of people who canceled their ChatGPT accounts and signed up for Claude. So again, a very big paradigm shift, and that's quantitatively listening to what people want, you know. So it's incredible, that amount of people with that loud a voice just making a transition between AIs. So it also begs the question, will there one day be wars between robots and robots of different makes? Boston Robotics versus, the Teslas and the NVIDIA models and stuff. That's going to be very interesting as well to watch.
So I'm just going to, apparently 2.5 to 4 million people canceled their ChatGPTs.
I swear, I thought you were about to say 2.5 million people were watching this right now. I was like, yeah, we did it.
Fuck yeah. The most depressing episode yet. Woo! Yeah. Everyone's in for that. Great. Well, I think we can probably end it there now that everyone's sufficiently depressed. We should get like an alcohol sponsor or something.
I'm trusting. Go with IM8. You'll have energy for days. You'll feel very good about the
There
world.
we go. Thank you, David Beckham.
Thank you.
Joey gets his check soon. Well, Joseph, Joey, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. This was episode either 10 or 11. I should know this, but I don't keep track. Bill does.
Sure.
Of our podcast.
Pleasure.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care.